Tonight on Training Camp Game Plan. 1 week of work is in the books, and the preseason debut in Jacksonville is just 1 week away.
This is where you begin to see the growth.
Find out who Sean Payton is feeling good about and what areas need improvement as we welcome in our Saints Hall of Famers, Deuce McAllister and Pat Swilling, to look at the team.
Are they confident? They're very, very confident. I think they should be.
From Fox 8 Sports, this is Training Camp Game Plan. Sponsored by Nissan and the 2018 Nissan Titan. Backed by America's best limited truck warranty. See dealer for warranty details. Cox Communications, get right to the good stuff. And your Southern Quality Ford dealers. Ford, built to last.
7 practices in the books, and some things are beginning to come into focus. Welcome to Training Camp Game Plan. I'm Juan Kincaid. 1/3 of Saints training camp is in the books, and there have been some players that have grabbed headlines by making plays. Sean Vazan gets us caught up on what's happened since camp opened 1 week ago today.
We're 7 practices into Saints training camp, and some storylines have emerged. As far as starters go, the most intriguing competition could come at defensive tackle, where former first-round pick Sheldon Rankins and David Onyemata have split reps with the first team, next to Tyler Davison. Both have made significant plays in camp. For Onyemata, his growth is clear in his 3rd year in New Orleans.
I think he's played well. He played well last season. Each year he's been here, he's gotten better, and he's certainly one of our guys that we feel like will be a big part of what we're doing. So he's playing good football.
At the defensive end spot, all eyes went to number 92 when the pads came on, and he still has a ways to go, which is to be expected for a rookie coming from the level of competition he faced in college. But it's actually been another member of the draft class that's turned the most heads. When it comes to wow moments, wide receiver Traquan Smith has led the way with big play after big play.
Yeah, I'm just out here trying to impress everybody else. Doing the things I do that people seen so far that's kind of normal for me, but other people haven't seen it yet.
The backup quarterback competition has been interesting. There was a lot of talk of Taysom Hill heading into this camp. But through 7 practices, Hill has shown flashes but lacked consistency. He's split reps with Tom Savage as the number 2 quarterback. But at least right now, it appears Savage has done a more consistent job executing the offense. Savage credits Drew Brees for providing the blueprint to follow.
Obviously, I was with a different system for 4 years, so there's little things you got to change, but kind of having a guy like that to follow along, and I mean, he's obviously one of the best quarterbacks of all time, so it's easy to follow.
Okay, we're joined now by Fox 8 Saints analyst and former Saints running back Deuce McAllister. And Deuce, I'm just curious, 7 practices in, the freshness of camp has maybe worn off a little bit. As a player, is this the most challenging part of camp right now? Because the preseason game is still a few days away, so it's kind of in that in-between spot right now.
Well, you're in between spot, and we saw probably our first really true scuffle today, and that's going to happen because they're getting tired of hitting on each other. Sean, he'll rein them in a little bit. It's always good to have the officials out here as well, because those guys will help you with the small detailed things maybe that you were not thinking about. Sometimes it's hot, so the guys get tired, they get sloppy with things, and so hey, look, you're tugging too much, or that's a pass interference. So those officials will help with those type of things.
Since the last time we spoke, the Saints went in and added what was clearly a message from Sean Payton to his team. A wide receiver / punt returner, Brandon Tate. His first practice caught a deep ball, I believe it was from J.T. Barrett. Nice play. Eyeballed him at practice today, just catching punts. He caught it pretty clean, but I guess my point is Brandon Tate has a real shot at making this team, doesn't he?
He's got an outstanding shot of making this team. For him, his ability to have comfort in catching it and being confident, it's a plus if he can go out and get +7, +8 on the actual return. But right now with this team, the way that they're built, they're looking for somebody just to catch the ball. And so, I think he still has confidence in a guy like Austin Carr or Tommy Lee, but he does send a clear message that, hey, look, if you're not going to get it done, we will bring somebody in. And, when you look at what Brandon Tate has done, he's played in the league 8 years. Last year he averaged over 10 yards of return yardage as far as punt return is concerned. Honestly, he would be considered your 5th receiver, but that's a pretty good 5th receiver as well.
It's not bad. I mean, to contribute in that way. Okay, we have 7 practices in. Put your coach's hat on for a second here.
you look at this roster, where is the toughest cut going to be?
Probably two places.
Okay.
You're going to offensive line.
Okay.
I think they have some talented guys there. And a lot of this will depend on who's well, who's healthy. You know, do we have a position group that's banged up? Regardless of what happened, you will have some guys that will get cut that made this team last year. I mean, there will be some players or two that will get signed by another team just because this team is so deep. You know, there may be a draft pick or two that does not make this team because they are so deep. So it's going to be interesting to see, but I think injuries will play a factor. But, I mean, also in the secondary at the corner position, there's going to be some tough decisions that have to be made in that room.
And to kind of piggyback on that, it feels like this is the kind of year where the coaching staff is going to have to say goodbye to a player that they know they could possibly face later on in the season because they're good enough to play on an NFL roster.
Well, yeah, I mean, there will be 3 or 4 guys that will make another team opening day roster that's going to get released from this team. I mean, and that just shows you, one, it shows you the youth of this team, but it shows you the depth of this team as well. But unfortunately, this in college where you can keep, 105 or 85 guys on scholarship, you can only really technically carry 53. A couple guys will get banged up. They'll go on injury reserve. You'll have 10 players that you can carry on practice squad, and then Alex Jenkins is your one-year international player that you can carry. So there's a lot of good talent in the building, but it's going to be a tough cut, and some guys that made this team last year will be on another team opening day roster.
Now, this may sound like maybe a little bit of minutia, but I'm looking at this roster and I see, okay, defensive tackle, Sheldon Rankins, David Onyemata, Tyler Davison. I think that 4th defensive tackle is maybe a bit of a question mark. We don't know who has emerged in that spot. Have you eyeballed that at all? And who do you think maybe is a favorite to take that position?
Well, you've got a couple guys that have showed up. You can go back and look. Jay Brumley, he's a guy that's a 5-year veteran who has a lot of experience, played all 5 years with the Giants. I think that he's had a pretty good camp. You talk about some of the young guys that they have. Stallworth is one guy that, played at South Carolina. They signed him as an undrafted rookie free agent. So, Mitchell Lovin has played mainly defensive end, but he's a guy that can slide in and play the defensive tackle for you as well. So there's a couple of guys that will have a chance, will have a shot to say, hey, look, I can play in that 4-man rotation, and whether it's the nose and or the 3 technique, to be able to give those other guys a rest.
The last couple of days before today, we saw it kind of felt like the defense had their way with the offense. Today, it felt like the offense responded. I think you kind of want that, right? That ebb and flow, that back and forth between both sides. You don't want one side dominating in training camp, right?
No, I mean, it would have been a big surprise if the defense had dominated today, even though they mainly worked red zone situations and some different things of that nature. But offensively, particularly running the football, I thought they ran the football really, really well today. And even yesterday, I thought they ran the football well. But, even completing some passes there, they got the running backs in some one-on-one situations. Those guys are going to be tough for any linebacker core to cover. Alvin Kamara, Boston Scott had a really good option route that he was able to score on, but the offense really bounced back today.
Speaking of linebackers, do you see a linebacking group that perhaps is as good in cover? I know it's hard to defend Alvin Kamara on an option route, but it feels like they've gotten their hands on the ball a good bit, gotten some interceptions. So A.J. Klein had one today. Alex Anzalone had a pass breakup. We saw Demario Davis a few days ago. Does it feel like they're a little bit better in coverage from that position?
Well, it's always going to be a work in progress. I mean, the one thing that you have to be able to do is identify which guys you're covering. I mean, you can tell by matchups. Yes, if Alvin Kamara is out, you want a safety on him. But at times, the linebacker will be covering. If I'm the Saints, playing against Alvin Kamara, I chip him. I try to slow him down a little bit to at least give him a linebacker opportunity. But they do a pretty good job, whether it's Demario, whether it's Alex Anzalone, or even A.J. Klein, of covering. Also today, Robertson did a great job of identifying a screen, and that was going nowhere. So they've done a pretty good job of coverage as far as the linebackers are concerned.
Now, I know your eyes naturally gravitate to the running back position. It's a big storyline. Has anyone started to emerge out of that group yet, or is it still, we got to wait and see?
It's got to be a wait and see. You saw some positives from Boston Scott. Shane Vereen has been hurt. That doesn't help him. He's got to be able to get 100% well. Thought Marcus looked well. Alvin Kamara has done really, really well. But you're really waiting for one of those. Terrence West, you're waiting for him to take off. Thought the last 2 days, even today was a pretty good day for him, but I thought the last 2 days were really, really good for him as far as him looking explosive and making some cuts. It's going to come down to the games. Who can perform in the games, and are they holding on to the football?
Yeah, it is going to come down to how it goes in the game. And perhaps we're all kind of ready for that first preseason game. We're getting there about a week away. Deuce, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Coming up on Training Camp Game Plan, the most talked about player in camp has been Traquan Smith. He's just looked the part, but can he keep it up? Chris Hagan will have his story. And later, Dan Arnold didn't mind changing positions as long as it increased his chances of making the final 53-man roster. Garland Gillen will have his camp story when the game plan continues. Can't get enough of seeing the new look black and gold? Check out our photo galleries from practice on the Final Play app. While you're there, you'll also find plenty of articles and videos to keep you in the know heading into the season.
You're watching Training Camp Game Plan. Sponsored by Nissan and the 2018 Nissan Titan. Backed by America's best limited truck warranty. See dealer for warranty details. Cox Communications, get right to the good stuff. And your Southern quality Ford dealers. Ford, built to last.
I'm not afraid of expectations held high. That's a quote from rookie wide receiver Traquan Smith, who's been the most talked about player in camp thus far. Chris Hagan has more on how it's all come together for Smith in such a short amount of time.
The rookie class of 2017 set the bar very high, almost impossibly high, given how well Alvin Kamara, Marshawn Lattimore, Ryan Ramczyk, and Marcus Williams performed. But that's not going to stop a guy like Traquan Smith from trying to live up to that high standard.
Well, I know how I am. I'm a competitor, so I expect myself to come out here and compete. And no matter who's in front of me, ball's in the air is my ball as a receiver.
In just 7 practices, Smith's developed a reputation as a pretty reliable set of hands that's not afraid to use his body to do whatever he can to make the catch. It's reminiscent of Michael Thomas during his rookie camp in West Virginia. But before anyone starts drawing that comparison, Smith says he's got a long way to go, especially in the playbook.
In order for me to get comfortable, I got to know the playbook, and I'm still learning. And once that happens, you know the playbook, you play a lot more faster. You don't have to think about it. And in that aspect, you're going to be much more comfortable. So I say I'm about 75%. I'm trying to be 110%.
Pushing that along is wide receiver coach Curtis Johnson. If you've been to any Saints practice, you've seen his approach, constantly critiquing his players to get the most out of them as fast as possible.
He's always on me, no matter if I do something right, I do something wrong. He's the same coach in and out. Like he always getting on me. Even when I do something right, he's telling me what I did wrong and how can I perfect that.
But the most valuable connection he'll make this camp is with his quarterback. Smith says he spent time in San Diego during the offseason training with Drew Brees and Michael Thomas, but there's still a lot more to learn.
There's much more improvement I can do, and much more getting together with Drew. It's nothing but a timing thing, and as a receiver, if I want to be able to play in this game, I have to know my quarterback, what my quarterback thinks, and I have to be on the same page with him at all times.
All that said, though, nothing will be handed to Smith just because he's had a few good practices. He'll have to prove that he can make the same plays under the bright lights and prove that he deserves to be on the field more than a few league veterans also on the roster. Reporting at Saints training camp, I'm Chris Hagan for Game Plan.
And speaking of it all coming together, coming up on this special edition of Training Camp Game Plan, the road Dan Arnold's taken to camp had a fork in it. He's hoping the path he chose leads him right to a roster spot.
You're watching Training Camp Game Plan. Sponsored by Nissan and the 2018 Nissan Titan. Backed by America's best limited truck warranty. See dealer for warranty details. Cox Communications, get right to the good stuff. And your Southern quality Ford dealers. Ford, built to last.
Coming into training camp, a change was necessary for tight end Dan Arnold, who seemed willing to do anything to increase his chances of making the team. 1 week and 7 workouts later, and it appears that change was for the better. Garland Gillen explains.
Each training camp, there's always 1 or 2 surprises that really no one could predict. The emergence of tight end Dan Arnold is a prime example. He's made a ton of big-time catches so far in camp and has many fans going, who's number 85? Arnold attributes his success to work in May and June.
We worked a lot on the off-season during OTAs, working on timing and stuff, and that's when you're working without pads and stuff during OTAs, that's kind of where you work on the timing, and then once you get pads on and stuff, it helps a lot, you know, being fluid and everything through that transition. Arnold
Originally suited up for the black and gold at wide receiver, but tight ends coach Dan Campbell envisioned better contributions at his position spot.
That was one thing that they kind of came into me at the beginning of OTAs. It was one of those things where Dan approached me and said, you know, you might have the frame, you might have the ability to do this, and after taking a couple weeks at it and thinking about it, he said, you know, if you're really looking at making this team and this is something you want to do, then this might be the shot for you. And I said, you know what, whatever is going to get me on this team, I'll do whatever you guys, I'm going to trust you as coaches to look out what's best for me, and I'll take that, and here I am.
It's just one of our thoughts coming off the spring, you know, with the depth we're at receiver. He's someone who's got a big body. We think that, you know, he can play in that Y role. We'll see how he develops, but he is someone that he was cutting weight, and real easily could get to 240, and so we just went that direction with his body type.
It could be tough for Arnold to make the final 53 at tight end, with Josh Hill, Dion Yelder, Ben Watson, Michael Hoamano-Inui also fighting for a starting role. In Metairie, Garland Gillen, Fox 8 Sports.
Coming up, a member of the Saints Hall of Fame and the famed Dome Patrol joins me on set to talk black and gold. Stay with us.
You're watching Training Camp Game Plan. Sponsored by Nissan and the 2018 Nissan Titan. Backed by America's best limited truck warranty. See dealer for warranty details. Cox Communications, get right to the good stuff. And your Southern Quality Ford dealers. Ford, built to last.
For planning purposes, here's what to expect from the Saints at camp. Practice tomorrow and Saturday get underway at 8:50, run until 11:40. Sunday's practice will move uptown to Tulane's-Yulman Stadium. They'll begin at 7 o'clock. Then on Monday, back to the regular 8:50 start time before taking another day off on Tuesday. If you don't know the face next to me, shame on you. 8 years with the Saints, back in the day with the Dome Patrol. Pat Swilling joins us here on the final play. He's going to be with us all preseason long during the preseason games beginning August 9th with the first game. And I want to talk about this football team right now. Look, you know how Sean Payton thinks. We got to get the best players on the field as we can right now. Is this team a little overconfident going into this season? It's a very talented football team, but they're very confident going into the season.
They are, but they're one of the most talented. I think this is probably one of the most talented teams he's had.
Okay.
If you look at his defense and all these players you have, the linebackers, cornerbacks, you know, as I listen to him talk, you know, offensively, they've always been good.
Yes.
But now he has a defense to go with it. So are they confident? They're very, very confident. And I think they should be, because based on the talent they have a great opportunity to do some special things.
It all begins, of course, with the quarterback and Drew Brees, and we've always heard him say, you know what, we feel like this window is still open. We feel like we can win a championship. But I imagine because he's up in age, he knows he's closer to retirement than he is starting all over again. He knows the window is closing. How much pressure is he putting on himself right now?
You know, knowing Drew in the way he is, because he's a winner. The guy always wants to play well, always wants to do well. He's a leader on that team. You know, you got to feel that he really wants to see this team get to the Super Bowl. And the only way to do that, he has to play well. Yeah. He has to play well every week. Can't turn the ball over. Do the things that Drew does. So I have to believe that he's feeling some pressure, because I think I would. You know, I think he's going on, what, 18 years in the league?
Years, yeah.
So that window's closing, but also he feels like he can get another Super Bowl.
What helped him last year, he had so many pieces around him, from Alvin Kamara to Mark Ingram to Michael Thomas. He's not going to have Mark Ingram for those first 4 games. The pressure on Mark Ingram to perform well when he gets back, because maybe this may be his last year here, you think?
And there'll be some pressure. I'm pretty sure Mark really wish he could be there. And I think Coach Payton will be the guy to try to figure out who gets more touches, you know, how he try to fills that void, because I think there's going to be a void there. But also, he has so many great players. Also, with that new wide receiving core he has, he has, what, 6, 7, 8 wide receivers?
Yeah, a bunch of guys, yeah.
Somebody's going to get cut out of that group. But I think Coach Payton will find a way to get other guys touches, get them more involved until Mark gets back.
One thing I couldn't wait to talk to Pat about was this new linebacker, Demario Davis, coming in here. Again, the Dome Patrol is fantastic, and you liked it because everybody played every down, and you see that in Demario Davis.
Without a doubt. He's a guy that can play every down. I mean, he's a run stopper. He can cover on third down. I mean, he's a everyday, every play kind of guy. And it's hard to find those kind of guys. You know, most time, and I'm so surprised that the Jets let him go because he's such a good player. But he's one of those guys that, I really feel like he could have played with us because he can play every down. And one thing I like about him, is he can flat run. Man, he can run, he can cover, and he loves to play the game.
Can't wait to see him play. One last thing I want to talk to you about, Marcus Davenport, the first-round pick, playing defensive end. They've been looking for someone opposite of Cam Jordan for a long, long time. What do you think about this kid? How much pressure is there on him to come in and be competitive and be special right away? Or does he have time?
Well, I don't know how much time he has. I really think when you take a guy at that slot and you move up to get a guy like that, they expect him to come on and make some plays and really play well for him. And, I keep hearing different things. I think he has to be patient, but I don't know how patient he can be because he has to make some plays. But, I really believe that they expect a lot of things out of him. But if he will take his time, play well, and play with a high motor, I think he's going to be fine. But I think it's going to take some time for him to be really good.
That's a taste of what you're going to get in the preseason from Mr. Pat Swilling, former Saint of the Dome Patrol. We'll see him once again August 9th when the Saints kick off their first preseason game against Jacksonville. Pat, thanks.
Thank you.
And before we turn out the lights on tonight's show, we have to pass along the preseason schedule because 3 of the 4 games will be live on Fox 8. August 9th in Jacksonville, August 17th against Arizona, and the 30th against the LA Rams will be carried live here on Fox 8. They'll also play in LA against the Chargers on the 25th. And don't forget, for all things Saints and training camp, check out our Final Play app and send us a question by clicking on the Final Word feature. We appreciate you staying up with us tonight for Game Plan. Our next newscast comes your way at 4:30 in the morning. Have a good night.
From Fox 8 Sports, this has been Training Camp Game Plan. Sponsored by Nissan and the 2018 Nissan Titan. Backed by America's best limited truck warranty. See dealer for warranty details. Cox Communications, get right to the good stuff. And your Southern Quality Ford dealers.